Come, let us explore this Dusk's meditation class and group practice, that we too could meditate like a Jedi. This evening's lesson is based on both the 38th as well as the 39th verses of the meditation classic, the Unwaning Victory Banner, composed many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer Rahe Vajra. Together, let us relaxingly recite. By being under the power of afflictions, as soon as one cuts off the top of the palm tree or burns the seeds by fire, one will not fall under their influence, or so it is taught by fools. Each of the hundreds and thousands of foolish teachings produce its characteristic flavor, whichever is practiced. But as wisdom's real condition is without graspable attributes, dualism's folly has no place from which to arise. So for this to make sense, I need to go over the basics of focus, analysis, mindfulness, meditation, liberation, and emptiness. Surprisingly, it won't take very long. We'll begin by switching. By the way, this teaching text, as well as the visual aids, are both available for free downloads. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. What could that suckiness look like? Well, in humans, it could look like the vast majority of us, including myself, being raised to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. It should therefore come as a little surprise that for the majority of meditation teachers, at least 90%, their standard operating procedures to implore all their students to over-focus and over-analyze. They might give that fancy terms. They might call it concentration and contemplation. They might call it vipassana. They might call it samatha or shamatha, and vipassana or vipassana, which is a needless complication. But either way, what happens is that when we overwork both our medial and dorsolateral and prefrontal cortex, we involuntarily begin presenting with symptoms of depression, as well as trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Now, fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Case in point, both facets of our autonomic nervous system. When we vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, our amygdala is calmed. Both our aggression and our anxiety are calmed. And we gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, that which transforms avarice into love and aversion into compassion. Sounds fabulous. How do we make that happen? Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle part of our spinal cord that some people call our sympathetic nervous system. It can be likened to having a number of books that don't quite fill an empty shelf on a bookcase. This middle bit of our spinal cord has evolved to help us to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, all manner of phenomena, including the external, internal, physical, mental, pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, and grotesque, including our perceptions of sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, as well as our ability to notice emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. What are we to do with that which we noticed? Every time we exhale, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which are likened to the bookends on either side of our collection of books on the imaginary bookshelf that is our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. Now let's wade into the deep waters of figures of speech. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. And so we see that emptiness or voidness are simply figures of speech for the fleeting experience of non-graspability. That brings us to non-duality. As we breathe in, the external and the internal could feel quite different. However, as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as if they were melting into merely the spatial. As we inhale, our experience of the pleasurable and painful could be quite different. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of simply sensation. And so it is with everything else. Everything from the beautiful to the ugly, from the melodious to the discordant, from the fragrant to the foul, from the delicious to the disgusting. Now that we have a good understanding of non-duality, let's return to the teaching text. There are some people who feel, I'm feeling strong emotion, therefore I must be bad, and I must change the way I feel. But that's dualistic. Whether we are feeling hatred or whether we are feeling love, as we relax into our exhalation, they melt into the simplicity of just emotion. Now you might say, but won't I do bad things if I feel hate? Well, here's the funny thing. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we experience the highest love, which is the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of awareness and release. So this love is not necessarily an emotion, but rather an intention to practice kindness. Kindness of intention, kindness of communication, kindness of conduct, and even kindness of commerce. So the same mindfulness and meditation that fuel our experience of non-duality protect us from the tyranny of negative emotions or negative impulses, which is a very good thing. But not everyone practices mindfulness and meditation, no less than non-duality, that can perceive and release in harmony with our breathing. And for those people, they try to manipulate their bodies or their thoughts or their emotions. But all that does is dig them deeper and deeper and deeper into both duality as well as strengthening the power that our own controlling tendencies have over us. And so the author uses illustrations that you and I both know. As graduates of high school, we understand that a palm tree lives because of photosynthesis. And if you cut off the top of the palm tree, the rest of the tree would wither and die. Similarly, if you burn seeds, even if you plant those seeds and water them, they cannot grow. And so people stuck in duality, people who are slaves of their own controlling tendencies, sincerely hope that by manipulating their bodies or their circumstances or their emotions or their thoughts, they can free themselves of certain dreads or desires. But here's the problem with that. We can't control our circumstances. We can't control our bodies perfectly. Yes, to some degree we can, but not perfectly. We cannot control our thoughts or emotions perfectly. And all that will do, the effort of doing that, will make us more rigid and more controlling and more cranky and more anxious and more miserable. Each of the hundreds and thousands of dualistic teachings produces its characteristic flavor, whichever is practiced. So if you take an action, you'll get a result. Not necessarily the result you want, to the degree you want, or for the duration you want, but something will happen. If you drop a hammer on your toe, something will happen. Not necessarily pleasant, but something will happen. But as wisdom's real condition is without graspable attributes, dualism's folly has no place from which to arise. So we've been taught the value of non-duality, and that non-duality is the fruit of training, of playing with mindfulness and meditation sustainably. In just a minute or two, we'll get down to the nitty-gritty. But now let's shift gears. It is General Leia Organa Saturday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So, as promised, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What is the key to easily and sustainably practicing mindfulness and meditation? Every time we feel our diaphragm pull in and down during our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. Every time our diaphragm relaxes and returns to its upright position as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease. This is the easiest way to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics and relax into their non-graspable nature. Now, before we begin, I think we have there's a comment. So, Shite Might says, thank you, and you are welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let's continue. So, since we've sat for the better part of 20 minutes, let's take a moment to adjust our legs. A very efficient way to keep track of our first collection of 144 inhalations is to rest the first knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of its left index finger, palms up in our lap. An easy way to keep track of our next 12 inhalations is to touch our right thumb to the first, second, and third sets of creases upon each of our right hand's four fingers. we can use the tip of our left thumb to count or touch each of the 3 sets of creases upon each of the 4 fingers of our left hand to help us to keep track of 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. Now, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 or 10 minutes or so. 5 to 10 minutes or so. Got to use the right preposition. just as Obi-Wan Kenobi told young Luke Skywalker, you have taken your first step into a much larger world. So do I remind you that if you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up, and that you could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 and a half hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's dawn meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.